Welcome to Authentic as Fuck podcast. My name is Sun. I am a storytelling coach, and in this podcast, I help entrepreneurs and creators help them through their brand story, brand messaging, and coach them through any questions they have. So today we have Franco Torres. Welcome, Franco.
Thank you, Son. Thank you for having me and for creating the space because I think that there's not much room in this world that we live in to be authentic as fuck. So I'm pleased to be here, you know, and I
Thank
think
you, thank you.
that's a real
Welcome.
that's a real community service, because I think that there's a lot of tools out there, and I will start by introducing myself, and I will get to
Mhm.
this point. I define myself as a curious mind that gets me to learn a lot of things. And through my life, I made a decision to become a psychopedagogist, which is a therapist specialized on learning, and an entrepreneur. So
Got it.
I recently created a consultancy company with my wife, which is she's also a psychopedagogist, and we are called experienciar, which is the use of a verb that has to do with experience learning. And we help teams, businesses, and companies to know how they learn, to realize the importance of learning in their operations, and to become better learners. And we do learning, not education, which is there's a difference for me, for us,
Mhm.
and that's who I am, or at least that's who I am for today at this moment of my life.
Okay.
So
So let's do you have specific questions that you want
yes,
to go through today? Yeah,
yes,
let's start with that.
yes, and it has to do with, for example, when I discovered Idol Nation, I found a place where I was uh, called to the stage, not to be talking from ego, and I realized that I was starting a business from my unhealthy ego, trying to
Mm.
convince someone else that I have the best service, or my shit is the shit, I am awesome, and that's not the point. And I realized that I'm not clear about the service that I provide. So my question is this: in the same journey that you lead us in Idol Nation about came up authentic, to speak not only from ego or unhealthy ego, to define the service that I provide, because I'm also innovating with these kind of services in the consultancy space,
Mhm.
because we are
Mhm.
taking some tools from the therapy background that could be really applied to organizational space, to the work environment, to the business environment. And we are finding it difficult to be clear about the value in our services. I mean, we know
Got
that's
it.
valuable. We know that we can create transformations and we can bring some solutions to what they are looking for when it comes to learning. But it's hard for us to be clear, be simple, be
The messaging, how to
messaging.
communicate that,
Yes,
right?
the
Yeah.
communication.
So, I mean, first of all, I want to say this, right? I think we all start from a place of ego when we start a business. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then I think once we start a business and we start building our business, we realize that okay, it's it's not about us, it's not about our ego, and then we go through a transformation. And people that can't have that transformation usually fail.
Hmm.
They end up going back to a job or something like that. So at some point, as an entrepreneur, we have to have that crossover where we kind of like have that humility and like so this is um here's what I want to say. I want to dig a little bit deeper into what you do so we can try to figure out that
Okay,
messaging and how to communicate the value. But
awesome.
I want to start off with this, and this is also with ego. So yesterday I was talking to a copywriter. This guy is he's a very like one of the top copywriters. And what I asked him, like a lot of the questions that I asked him, what I realized is that he actually is not a copywriter.
Hmm.
He's more of a brand strategist. He's more of like he figures out the the problem of the pain point of the customers, and like it's a lot to do with like psychology, business, and a lot of other things. and very little of what his job is actually writing copy. Now, I asked him, why do you call yourself a copywriter? Because you're not a copywriter. You're way, way more than that. And he says, I don't call myself a copywriter. That's what people call me. That's why I call myself a copywriter. Because when they hire me, they're looking for a copywriter, right?
Yes.
And then once they start working with them, they realize, okay, this is much more. But here's the thing. A lot of people try to do that. A lot of people in his place are like, I'm not a copywriter. I don't want to be a copywriter. I don't like that label. I'm more of a strategist. I'm a brand strategist, or I'm a business consultant or something. They use those words. But how many people out there are looking for a brand strategist? How many people are there are looking for a they're looking for a copywriter, and then they realize, okay, I need brand strategy. And the same thing happens at Night Owl.
Mm.
Like, nobody's coming to my agency going like, son, can you help us with the brand storytelling? Can you help us with the brand? Nobody, not a single person is asking me that. We call ourselves the web design agency. So what happens is people first come and say, son, can you make us a website like Mel Robbins, or like Jay Shetty or something like that? And then and then they say, oh, I love the about page that you did, how you tell the story, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh yeah, you want that? Then we need to go through this strategy session, and we need to do this. We need to go through your brand story, blah blah blah. And then they end up realizing actually 80% of what we do has nothing to do with web design.
Mm.
You understand what I mean? But web design is what got them in the door. So what a lot of people in my position that do what I do, they don't want to call themselves a web designer. They're like, I'm not a web designer. I'm not a copywriter.
Mm.
I'm a brand strategist. I'm a brand storyteller. Well, how's that working out for you? Nobody's asking for you, are they? So we need to find the thing that people are asking for, right? So what is the actual thing that they're struggling with? That what's the thing that's going to get them in the door first? And then after that, you can do all of that. And over time, what happens is then you get known for that deeper thing. So do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
First of all, okay.
Yes.
So now let's dig deeper into the service that you provide and the type of clients that you work with. So can you give me an example of like a client or your audience, what they're struggling with, and how do you help them?
Okay. For example, we have this client that's a construction company, and they try to design a structure as a company so they can operate with less people and get more projects. So they work with government, and we help them to design their processes, how they operate, how they manage their talent, and how can talent be matched with task. Because sometimes it's just like there's a lot of bottlenecks when you ask someone to do something.
When they first come to you, let's start from the beginning. When they
Yes.
first come to you, what's the result that they want? What is the
They want
final outcome that they want?
a process manual. Like, okay, design my processes
Okay.
manual. So we can have like all the processes written down, and we can address them.
Like documented.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
documentation. And the first time I said, okay, we don't do that. But then I shift my mind and say, hey, we can do that, because they came us to do that. We can start from that. And I said to the owner, because I had the opportunity to sell the service to the owner of the company, and I said, okay, we can do the documents. But you know what? 99% of the time when you document something, it fails, because you don't take in consideration the way people learn, people think, people act. So we can make like a standard document. Okay, you will have your manual in ASAP, or we can design something that's more sustainable over time. And they want that processes to be designed in order to sell the company. So if you want a company that's
Okay.
so
Okay.
they have
So they got it. So they want to proceduralize their business, basically,
yes,
like so that
yes,
they can hands off the business. And
that's it.
would you say that's like the majority of the the clients that want to hire you is like that. They feel like the business can't run without them, and they want to like
I think there's a
that's
certain
themselves.
amount of owners that feel that, mostly here in Argentina, and probably in my city. There's a lot of small businesses that are run by a single person, and it cannot be delegated, or they cannot move from their chair. So if they think that
Mm,
if there are procedures uh, efficient enough to run everything without them being sitting there, that's a win. But at the same
yeah.
time,
No, I can totally see that. Yeah.
but at
Yeah.
the
Go
same
ahead.
time, it's just like a regular consultancy on procedures. Just okay. I came from a background of ISO standards, so I already designed uh, procedures, documentation, and stuff like that from this framework of ISO. But what I've encountered every time I had a project is it doesn't work because you don't take in consideration some complex aspect of human beings. So you can probably design a procedure, and unless you are like a huge company which doesn't care about people, okay, so follow the instructions, and if you don't follow, I will replace you, and that's it. When we are talking about small companies that cannot allow themselves to rotate so many people and to say, okay, I will fire you and I will hire someone. And even
Yeah,
though
yeah.
they can hire, they can't hire sufficient enough because they don't know what they need from that person they are hiring, because they don't
I understand.
are clear
Let's
enough.
before we get into the solutions, let's cover the problem first because when it comes to messaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they first learn about you, they don't care about all of that. All
Yes.
they care about, like for example, when somebody comes to me and says, like, I want you to build me a website, I can talk about storytelling and brand, like all of that, all I want. Nothing is going in their ear. They want to talk about website first, right?
Yes.
So it sounds like what people come to you is for because you have a background in like working with ISO and like procedurizing stuff. So people come to you for that. They're like, oh, you, that's what you do. So can you is it almost like can you automate my business?
Yes.
Like can you automate my business so I can step away? Right?
Yes. Yes.
That's what they come to you for. Then I would just sell it like that, even though it's not true, right? Because
Oh.
even though when they actually hire you, they're gonna realize, okay, this is why it doesn't work.
Mm.
Okay, explain it then, but don't explain it up front because that's how you're gonna lose them.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean? Here, let me give you a perfect example. I call myself a storytelling coach or a storyteller. And I say in Night Owl Nation we teach storytelling, right? But if anyone that's been in Night Owl Nation for a while, they know that it's way more than that.
Yes.
Like what I explain is that storytelling isn't just taking your story and telling it. It's actually most people actually don't even have the story. So we need to dig deeper and we need to find ourselves and we need to discover ourselves and it's like therapy and we go through all of that, right? But if I say, oh, like, oh, I use therapy and I help you find yourself and blah 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 blah, nobody's gonna sign up. Nobody's gonna buy it. I have to say what I teach you is storytelling, and then once they join over time, that's what they're gonna learn. And then there will be a point where they're like, aha, that this is what storytelling is really all about. But I can't do that up front. I have to say, no, I'm going to teach you storytelling so you can grow your Instagram, you can grow your business, whatever, even though
Mm.
that's not what it really is. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
So a lot of times I think there's a difference between what your audience wants and what they need. And a lot of
Yes.
times we try to sell what they need, which they're not listening. So we need to close this gap between what they want and what they need first. So say, I would say lead off with what I do. Like if I were to say in one line, like let's say in Instagram bio, what I would say is like, we automate your business so you can step away from it. That's it.
Mm.
Because when those business owners hear that, they're gonna be like, holy shit, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. Okay. And then when they come in, you're gonna have with the nuanced content and doing your sales process, during your meetings, you're gonna have to explain all of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, but it also trigger my emotions because that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I know, and that's one of the clients that I have right now. But at the
Hmm.
same time, we laid out a proposal for a software company when where they were looking for specifically someone who knows about learning. They want specialists on learning
Hmm.
because they want to design a filter based on learning profiles to a product or a project they have. And they came to me to say, "Hey, dude, you are the learning dude? Yes. Okay. Can you help us with this?" And I
Is that for their employees? Like learning
no,
for the employees
it's
or
like I will try to summarize like this. They are a software company which happens to teach people programming, and
got it.
they are aiming for sponsorship so they can have like a program to teach people to program. They want us to help them to select the profiles, the possible members they can join this program, and to say, okay, this is a really good fit for the program. So we help them to decide if, for example, Franco will apply to this program. It's the right guy, regarding learning profiles and learning styles and stuff like that. So what you are telling me, it's awesome because I get it. For example, if we are going to do procedures, that will be like you need someone to automate. We will automate your business. At the same time, if I can be a little bit closer to what actually it's
People come to you
groundbreaking for
for. Yeah.
me, it's we are a training company. If you want to, we are a little bit closer to learning as an aspect. Like we can be like we can give you. Um,
It's kind of okay.
so.
Whenever whenever somebody, an entrepreneur, explains something to me
Mhm.
and I don't get it as a layman, that's a big that's a big red flag. That's
Yes.
already a problem. So and right now when you all the stuff that you talked about with learning, I don't get. So let's go into a specific example. So when you say learning, are you saying that they're a company that provides training, meaning they're an education company that teaches people how to code? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Like,
they are a software company, and they decided to have
uh,
like a different niche where they teach you how to code, and if you are good enough, they will hire you afterwards. Otherwise, they just serve community, providing new coders out there. But they are not an education company. So it's tricky. And I know that there are a lot of red flags because we are innovating with the services that it's not put it out there. When I talk about learning, it's so hard to understand how learning is part of business. You know, are you talking about training? Are you talking about education? What are you talking about? And an example to realize this is learning. It's another aspect of businesses because if you're talking about businesses made of humans, humans need to learn, to adapt, to change, to incorporate new things in order to keep on doing their job. But most of the times, companies don't realize that learning is an aspect they need to take care of. Take, for example, blood sugar. You know, or if you are not aware of your levels, you're probably dealing with diabetes, but you don't know about that until you realize. So we help businesses to realize how learning as a phenomenon, as a human experience, is affecting their businesses. Do you have any specific learning needs, difficulties? Yet you can
mhm.
upgrade your processes when it comes to learning. For example, you can hire better, you can uh, invest in in the right training, because for example there's a lot of companies paying on training but they don't get the results because you were not thinking about your team when you hired that trainer and stuff like that. So it's challenging for me, and I know, and I really embrace
Yeah, you're trying to sell something that nobody is buying. Like
Yes,
you're still trying to sell something that nobody's asking for. So I'm trying to tie it to something that people are asking for.
yes.
So what is the actual thing that they're asking for? I understand this is the solution,
Hmm.
but who would this solution help, and what are those people asking for?
Mm.
I guess is my real question, right? Because there's no point selling something that nobody's asking for, right? Like for example, I can talk all about like, yeah, you need to connect the dots to like all that stuff. Nobody's saying, son, can you teach me how to connect the dots? Nobody's saying that. Do you understand
Yes,
what
yes, yes.
I mean?
It's a challenge. I
So,
need to be
yeah,
honest. It's a challenge for me, and I.
because one aspect you brought about is corporate training, right? So
Mhm.
I already know that there are plenty of people out there that are corporate trainer. They go in to teach like leadership, teach sales, or teach this or whatever it is, right? That's very clear to me. I can sell that, right? But what you're saying is a little bit vague because you're saying that that's part of it, but also not. And like, do you understand what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And when you lose, when you've lost them, you can't sell them.
Mhm.
So let's bring it back to the. So how? Okay, first of all, how many clients have you worked with, like providing this specific service?
Two. So
Okay,
I'm a
so
new.
it's kind of hard to gauge what the what they're looking for
Yes,
because there might be people out there that are looking for different things.
yes.
Okay,
And I
maybe we
realized.
can go with yeah.
Sorry, and I had to be clear about something. This business, it's newborn. Like we decided to think about it as a business, to operate and to start learning to be a business since November. I've been working
Okay.
in government for like 14 years before I decided to jump on this because I was not feeling right and stuff like that. And I said, okay, this is my moment to bet on this new
Is
thing.
that what you did when you work for the government?
Yes,
Is that
as a like a side hustle. I was hired as a coach or probably as a trainer, or some businesses or small businesses uh, ask for.
oh, okay? So that wasn't your day job
No,
in the government.
yes,
Okay.
in the government, I work in the government. I work as a quality assurance manager when it comes to
Okay.
services. So I work in that area for almost like 10 years. And 4 years I was like roaming around doing other things, but most of the years I worked with quality assurance. That's where I got all my training, and then I stepped into NLP. Then I decided to get a degree in psychopedagogy. And I know there's room to create services, but as you said, there's no one asking for it, or at least there's not a lot of companies asking for it. So I know that I'm trying to sell something that no one is asking for. And you blow my mind. I never thought it that way into, hey, look for a door. Then you can sell anything else. But look for a
Hmm.
specific need, specific pain. What I'm afraid of, because there's a lot of businesses trying to automate and to, okay, can I run my business with a little bit of uh, easiness, if you call it somehow? Uh, yes, you can if you procedure, if you document. But I feel that that's not what we do. And to be honest, I have a team of people
Well,
who.
that's what everybody says. Like, oh, copyright. I feel like that's not what I do. Oh, web design. I feel like that's not what I. Yeah, and I don't feel like that's what I do. But that's
Mhm.
my ego wanting to say I need everyone to know exactly what I do. I'm much more than a web designer. I'm much more than a copywriter. I get it. I get it. I get that you're much more than that. Nobody else gives a shit.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And yes, and that's it. And
That's why I want to dig. I think I can help you. I
awesome.
have some questions for you.
Yes. Shoot.
What made you want to go study this? I think you said psychopedagogy.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. What? Because that's something that nobody's even heard of, right? So what made you want to go study that? Like there must to be something must have triggered you to want to go learn that.
Yes. And just to clarify, this career it's
Yeah.
only present in Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and probably in Spain, and or probably Mexico.
Okay.
It's like an official
Okay.
therapist career, so it's not well known. What made me study this? I was in the middle of quarantine, like middle of 2020, and we were watching a movie. My wife, she's also a psychopedagogist, but she's like 16 years in the
Ah,
job, so
okay.
she's well
Okay.
experienced. And we were watching
Okay.
Wonder, you know the movie, like the kid
Yeah.
that used the helmet and stuff like that. And while we
Yeah.
were watching the movie, the movie end, and I was all tear up, and I said, "Fuck, I want to help people like him. He deserves people. There's a lot of people that deserve opportunities." And she said to me, "And why don't you study psychopedagogy and start helping them to learn better, to be able to express their uniqueness?" And I said, "You know what? You're right. I will give it a shot." Before that, I did psychology for almost like 6 years of my life, and I decided not to get the degree. So I reached out to the university and said, "Hey, I want to do this career. It's that possible?" And they said to me, "It's possible. You have some advantages. You can, if the career is about 4 years, you can make it in 2.5, but you have to do a lot of effort. I have a little kid, I have a job," and I said, "Okay, let's do it." And what made me decide to do so, it's I have a lot of tools, I have a lot of skills, I'm talented enough to help people to connect to their uniqueness and to help people discover new opportunities for them, to see their own magic. That's what got me to that point. And as I
Hmm.
learned about businesses, NLP, entrepreneurship, I also did a lot of training on that. I said, okay, there's room for organizations and businesses to incorporate learning as a new aspect they can thrive on and to excel. And there's a small amount of companies that realize this, but there are a lot of them who don't, and
Got
that's
it.
that what got me there.
Let's go through the logistics of how this works. Let's say this company comes and hires you.
Okay,
What's the actual service you provide day to day? Are you working with their employees? Are you working with their leadership team? How does it?
we have
What's
like
the
a
day to day of this
we
operation
have
looks
like
like?
a
Yeah.
four stage we have like a four
Uh-huh.
stage plan. The first stage is discovery, in which we assess what's the real need, as you said, the want and the need. So we discover and we can assess whether if we can help them with the struggle they actually have, not the one they say they have. Once we
Hmm.
do this discovery stage, we provide them a learning profile of their organization, how they learn as an organization, what are
Okay,
their
let's
needs.
back up a little bit.
Okay.
Give me an example of something they want versus something they need.
For example, they want their teams to perform better. They have problems with leadership. So they say, okay, I have this team of engineers, you know, and we cannot make them to reach the goals.
They're too lazy.
Yeah, they're
They're
too
not
lazy.
motivated.
They're not motivated. They cannot reach their goals. They are unorganized. Okay, okay, that's it.
Mhm.
So what are your
So they blame
values?
their employees.
They blame their employees. So uh, we help them to discover the incongruence, the noise in the organization, because you're asking for performance, but you as a leader or this organization does not have room for improvement. It's a toxic place. Let's put it in simple words. You ask them to thrive, to be better, but you keep on crushing their heads. So you have a problem. So before we can work with your team of engineers, we need to address these other things that are
Okay.
operating in a higher level to create this outcome.
And usually is that the leadership, or is it a what is it? Is it a process?
Could
Is it
be
the hierarchy?
could be
Like,
a different set of reasons, but usually it has to do with leadership. Like
okay.
the head of the companies have a vision that they cannot translate to their team, and we are selfish, but and I think that the challenge in this case is how can I move myself from my point of view and to acknowledge the different styles and point of view of my team, and to work with their styles, not mine. So they
Got
try
it.
to
Got it.
shovel.
Instead of just forcing like this is our vision.
Yes,
Like
exactly. And say, hey, stop saying that you are creative and open. And
mhm,
dude, hey, it shows here you are not. So whether you
mhm,
change your vision to, okay, we are this kind of organization, or you change your habit, your actions, you know yourself, because that
mhm,
could be a positive intent in what you do, but it's put it
mhm.
out there in a negative way. So we discovered that
Yeah.
dissonance, that incongruence. And we can say, okay, now we know what's going on. We can help you by improving your learning processes, and to say, okay, you know what? You are giving instructions, you are giving the task, the plan, the execution in a way that's not positive, or it's not creating the outcomes that you want to. So let's change that. Let's find a way in which you can connect with your team, because probably that's a skillful team, but you are connecting the wrong dots. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
once we do that discovery, when we can say, okay, this is the situation, we provide you three options in which we can intervene. We can do a training, we can do a process design, or we can do a mixture of those in which you
Got it.
can
And
own.
not every company needs all.
Not every
Like,
company needs all. And
yeah.
we can say, okay, we can help you. It's not about learning. It's about operations. It's about, like, I don't know,
Do you
finance.
sell to HR departments? Like, who are the actual decision makers that you're speaking to?
Recently, I made a decision that the door to companies, it has to do with HR, and I think that's a way to start.
You know, I don't think you want to hear this, but what you are selling is leadership training.
Okay.
And that sounds cliche, like you know what I mean. Like for example, corporation, like big companies reach out to me
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Hey, can you do a leadership training for our team or whatever, right? Something like that."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it starts. And then once you go in, you realize that okay, this is what's going on. Like, have you ever heard of a company called Echelon Front?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever heard of a guy named Jocko Willink?
Yes.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah. Jacko. Yes.
Okay, so his company is called Echelon Front. And companies with that exact problem that you're talking about hires Echelon Front to come in and do this, and like they do like a whole program where they, right? And but what they're asking for is because, oh, Jocko, you're like a great leader, great leadership
Mm.
coach. Can you come teach leadership because our leadership is lacking. Our employees are lazy. Or they don't want to do. They're too. They got too much ego. Whatever it is, can you come train them? And then Jocko will come in and they realize, okay, the problem is up here, not down here. You know what I mean? So the same thing that you just explained
Mm.
is exactly what that company does. It's just that maybe you might do it a little bit differently, process wise, or something like that, or the material that you teach might be different. But at the end of the day, you're solving the same problem, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you are gonna the first the first line of like defense is going to be to go through the HR, because the HR departments are the ones that make the decision on okay, how much money do we spend on our
Training.
our education or leaders training, yeah, things like that, right?
Mm.
So then you're going to have to use the words that they use.
Awesome.
What are they looking for? You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know that world that well, but if I were you, what I would do
Mm.
is I would start going to these HR conferences, right? Like really get involved in this HR world and network and make yourself part of, like, kind of like I'm in this part of a marketing community.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to be in part of that HR community so that certain people in that community knows you and you know them. And do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
And I'll tell you Jocko's story. This is how I don't know if you've heard him say this, but when he retired from the SEALs, right? So 20, like when he was like 40 and he went home, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna spend the rest of my life just surfing and enjoying life, right? And then one day one of his friend who works for like a Fortune 500 company called him and said, "Hey, Jocko, can you come speak in front of our leadership team here?" And then he's like, "Nah, I don't want to." And he's like, "Oh, we'll pay you." And he's like, "All right, fine." So he went and he spoke in front of the leadership. Okay, and then right after that, he's some of the leaders there came and said, "Hey, can you speak in front of my team?" So he did that. And one of the person there happened to be a person who also is a board of like these other companies. And he said, "Hey, can you come speak in front of all my CEOs?" And he did that. And then those CEOs said, "Hey, can you come speak in front of my team?" He did that. And after a while, they were like, "Oh, I love the stuff that you're teaching. Can you put it into a training manual for us?" So he created a training manual and started giving that out when in his training. And then a book agent came and said, "Hey, you got a book here? Can you turn that into a book?" Right? So you see how organically it happened, and
Yes.
that's how he got to where he is. So most businesses work like that, where a lot of people think that business works like this, like Steve Jobs, right? Have a vision. Nobody's asking for the iPhone, but I'm just gonna make it and force them to have it, and then everybody will love it. Like that's how most people like because they watch Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Henry Ford that they think that's how business is supposed to run. Okay, those three people that I mentioned is probably the only three people in history that's ever done that.
Mm.
99.9999999999999% of business owners got there just because by just solving the problem that people asked them for and organically got there. Nobody had a vision and got there. Okay, so it's a pipe dream to think that here's my vision. Everyone in the world is doing it wrong, and I'm gonna force them to take this. That's a pipe dream. That like unless you're Steve Jobs, you're not gonna be able to make that happen.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I'm looking for the right next step, and it sounds like to me it sounds most like leadership training. If I were to put a superficial word on it,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes. And and I take it because I know, as you said, no one heard about this. I mean, I haven't get a degree of something that it's not useful, but to be honest, no one knows about this, which is like you have pros and cons about that because I can establish myself as an authority in this area because there's not a lot of people you can refer to when you think about psychopedagogy. That's an
Hmm.
option. Uh, and I think it will be,
That's not how you build authority, though.
yeah. And
Uh, Here's how you build authority. This is what it's gonna look like. What's gonna happen is somebody's gonna come to you and say, "Hey, we need some leadership training because our team is struggling.
mhm,
My employees they're unmotivated. Our efficiency is going down. Blah blah blah." And then you
mhm.
go in there, you fix it, right? And then another company is like, "Oh, I love what you did there. Can you come do it for us?" And you go there and you fix it, right? But when you go do it, you're just like, "Okay, what I'm using the psychopedagogy method to do this, right?" And then you do it again. And after you do it three times, now you got the authority.
Awesome.
People are like, "This guy, it works.
Mm.
He actually does. He's actually proven track record of these companies that he's worked for. What is this psychopedagogy thing?
Mhm.
That there must be something to that." And then it becomes that. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, yes. And I love what you said.
So you build authority by track record first, and then you attach the word to it, and now that word has meaning. But you can say psychopedagogy all you want, but if you haven't proven yourself, you're not going to have zero authority. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And when you said it that way, it's just like I will be like in theory, talking everything in theory, but I haven't put on
Yeah,
to the test. So
exactly,
and
exactly. And the same thing is happening to me when somebody comes to us, and let's say, for example, one of our clients is Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix,
mhm,
and he was referred to us by Jay Shetty.
mhm,
Okay, so we did Jay Shetty's website. We did actually a few websites for him, and then he referred us to Mark Randolph.
mhm,
And when and Mark Randolph's like, oh, I love how you did do a very personal storytelling here and blah blah blah. Then I say that's because we go through a brand strategy where we figure out your story and blah 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 blah, blah. And that is like actually the core service that we do, and this costs how much, and you're gonna have to buy that. At that point, I don't have to sell it. You already trust that I've already done it multiple times, and I'm telling you that in order to do that, you need to buy this, and he just trusts me. I don't have to sell it at all. Do you understand? But it's not because I came up with a good messaging for this. It's
Hmm.
not that. It's because I've done it already so many times. You know what I mean?
Yes, and it's groundbreaking what are you saying to me, because now I'm recalling that every time someone's looking for me for my services as an individual, they are looking for my trainings. I already gave trainings on NLP, entrepreneurship, communication, and stuff like that. And they, hey, I came to your training. It was awesome. Can you give it again here and here and here? So I said,
Okay. If that's the case, then here's your message. Okay. This is easy now. Before that, I'm going to say this. Okay. In California, there was this. They were trying to get everybody to save water. Okay, so use less water. And they tried all this messaging. They're like, oh, it's going to save you more money. Oh, it's good for the environment. They tried all of this messaging, and no, it didn't make any difference. Finally, the thing that worked is when they sent out a message that said 78% of your neighbors are doing it. Then they were all like, "Ooh, okay."
yeah.
So this is something a lot of people don't understand. But what sells more than copy, branding, whatever, salesperson, what sells more than that is social validation. Okay.
Mhm.
So when I sell, and this is how you should be selling too, is this is how you should be selling. When somebody says, I love what you did with this when you trained this people, or I love the talk that you did there, what you need to say is like, oh yeah, you love that. So, oh, this one time, like this company hired me, I talk, and then what I realized, and I did the talk, and what I realized that they were actually struggling with this. So the pedagogy, and then
Yeah.
you bring up the story, oh,
See.
and this one company, they were struggling with this because their employee was like this. So what you're doing is you're almost using your track, the things that you work with already, telling their case study story, and then adding that psychopedagogy into it, right? And that's what they're gonna be like. Oh shit! Oh, that company did it. Oh, I need that too. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. And it feels better, because I'm not trying to convince you about shit. It's just like I do this and I'm good at it. And I will be
Yeah, yeah. You're just
providing that.
explaining.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're giving them. Oh yeah, that's what you want. Okay. Well, if you want that, the part that you don't see is this
Mhm.
psychopedagogy, and then now you can introduce it. You know what I mean?
That's so freaking valuable. To honor you, I never thought it that way.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. No, it feels so liberating because I also have to make a disclosure. Like probably 5 years ago, I entered in this realm of entrepreneurship. I find out a lot of thought leaders from Seth Godin to Chris Do to blah blah blah, everyone else, and they're awesome. They have a lot of great ideas. But you know what? And I have to be clear about this. When I found Night Owl Nation and I found you and I heard you and I saw your content, it feels refreshing to find someone who came up came as a real person, to someone who can be reachable, because I mean they encourage me, but I always felt that I was not at their game to read
Mm, mm, mm,
results.
mm, mm, mm,
And I
mm,
felt ashamed to talk about my weaknesses, to I don't have a clear value proposition. I don't know the pain that I'm solving. I'm not clear enough with my communication. And you know what? At the end of the day, that gets in your mind, and it's just like you're a fucking failure. Now I know that I'm not a failure. I know that I have something valuable. I'm just trying to find a way to be real, not to fill it with bullshit, just like, oh, this is so amazing.
Mm,
Because no, I
mm.
I help people with their learning. And what sometimes I like to play with words, and I call myself like a can master, because there's a lot of people who do things but they can't learn from what they do, and there's a lot of people who learn a lot and they can't apply what they learn. So I help them to really can learn from what they do and really do and really can do what they learn. So I'm trying to also
Yeah,
challenge
I know what
myself
you
with
mean. Yeah,
learning.
I
And
actually think what you said is something that a lot of people struggle with, because most people that I talk to, most entrepreneurs, they're actually rock stars in what they do, and they're already rock stars. But then they kind of put this aside, and then they listen to all these like thought leaders, and they're like, oh no, it has to be like this. So they actually are suppressing their strength and doing that. But in reality, what we should be doing is putting this on the pedestal. Like for you, people are already amazed by these things, and you're already a rock star in that area. So lead with that, and then the the messaging and all the stuff comes later.
about storytelling, because the story that I've been telling myself is I'm not good enough. There's something else to be learned in order to be successful. And recently, with therapy, with holding myself accountable to my actions and to creating healthy goals, and not to be successful from just from the get go. I
Mm,
discovered that I was telling myself a story that was harmful, and I forget about what I really have as a person, as a human being, as valuable. And I don't know if this.
I think too many of us. Go ahead,
Sorry,
finish your thought.
I will finish with this. I found with the camera that I am using right now. I have a little kid. He has like four, almost five. I teach him how to use the camera. The other day, he came from kindergarten with a friend of his, and they were just having a good time in the studio. I was in front of my house, so I wasn't aware of what they were doing. The other day, I got the camera and I was starting to erase a lot of files, and I came. I stepped on these files, these recordings and pictures they were taking. They recorded themselves. They made videos and they took pictures, and it was so freaking powerful when I saw this, because I saw a human being playful enough to create something without expectations. They just press on record button and they say, let's, and you can see the magic behind that video, that picture, that shit they were playing, and you can see that. And I forgot about my inner child. I'm not allowing myself to come out and play, to create something that's
Mm,
useful for the world and
yeah,
that I know that I can bring out there.
that's so that's so interesting, because like children at that age are not camera shy at all, right? It's like right now we have such fear of camera and recording ourselves and things like that, but children at that age, they don't have that fear. So we have a lot to learn from them.
Yes, yes.
But I'll say this: I think it's because a lot of us, we get carried away on the numbers.
Hmm.
Like, oh, this person have makes how $100 million a year, so therefore they're better than me. Or this person has how many followers, so they're better than me. Like a lot of us, we get carried away on the number. But you know, one of the things that I realized, first of all, first thing I realized is that like how much money you make has really nothing to do with how smart you are or how talented you are at all. That's the first thing. And so if you put the value in the money, like if you put the success in terms of revenue, and that's what's important to you, obviously you're going to be like, yeah, that person's better than me. But if you put the value as like, okay, knowledge, then there might be something else, or happiness, that might be something else. So like the way we define success should be different, first of all, and we should stick to that, right? Like if my idea of success is just being fulfilled, then that success is going to look different than somebody else's, whose success might be to get respect from people or
Mm.
to get attention or something like that, right? So, right, even when you were talking to me right now, one of my weaknesses is what you do. is is like, you know, training those people and then like setting up the right process, and like that's one of my weaknesses. So for me, I am looking at you like, oh shit, I wish like I had that, or I wish that somebody like that could help me and things like that, right? So a lot of times what we don't understand is that you don't even realize that that is your strength, and that's like such a powerful thing that even these people might be. Because in the beginning it was like that for me. Like I'm like, Jay Shed is coming to me, like this guy grew like to 10 million followers in a matter of 3 years, and he's asking me for advice on marketing. I'm like, what? Like that was weird. But that's the thing, like you have skills that even people you respect actually admire. Do you understand what I mean? And don't forget that.
That hits in so many levels, bro. That's uh, that's why I believe there's so much work to be done into um, like health in every regard. So probably mental health, because there's a lot of struggles we came up made up from ourselves. Just like I cannot see my own value, and if you are
Yeah,
blind,
exactly.
you will be stepping with the same rock every time you move forward. And
And when you kind of go into that place, right, where you lose your confidence and you lose your mojo, and you actually, even though you have something special there, other people are not going to see that anymore because
mm,
you're telling yourself that story. But
yeah.
then the opposite can be the truth too, right? You can be if you strongly believe that and you're just projecting that, even if you haven't built anything, people are going to be like attracted and be like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about, or something like that, you know?
Yes. Yes. I had to let go of the mask, and the performer, so the person can arise, because I've been performing a lot, probably the
I love
last
that.
10 years of my life, just to came up as the guy who knows the answers. And I know some stuff, but I don't know all the answers. And the mask is exhausting, and the performer, it's also exhausting. So I need to let my authentic self to arise, to say, hey, I'm here. I
Hmm.
do this, I am like this, and magic's gonna happen. And creating a business, trying to sell a service, and what I'm actually doing is trying to express my uniqueness to the world and trying to serve someone. And I'm learning my journey.
Yeah. And that is also a work on in itself. I'll tell you that, right? Like, because I do that too. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. That I come from that place of like, okay, I'm gonna own this. But every day still, right? Like, I I, I get pushed down, and I'm like, am I really? Like, and then I go into the corner, and then every day is a struggle. You know what I mean? So it's not something like once you overcome it, that like you'll always be confident. It's that thing creeps up daily basis, and we just need to constantly fight it.
There should be a disclaimer when you are starting to be an entrepreneur. Like, shit won't be shit won't be calmed every day. Like, you will have some struggling, and it doesn't matter if you finish that level yesterday. You have like a fresh start every day. So, and it's okay.
Yeah,
If you love failure in a sense, you're gonna be okay with that, because
yeah, that's exactly what what I try to tell myself is that. I'm 100% okay with admitting that I was wrong yesterday.
Mhm.
I'm 100% okay with admitting that I fucked up there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And once you have that, I think it becomes a little bit easier. Yeah.
Yeah. When I quit my job, I said, okay, Experienciar is my new project. I I won't hesitate. If this doesn't work, I will find something else. I won't. I'm not afraid of killing my idea. If you want to, if it doesn't work, it
Mm,
doesn't work. Let's find something else.
yeah, exactly.
So
That's actually powerful because once you start thinking that way, it actually starts. You know what? Let me tell you a story. For the first 3 year business, I'm like, it's do or die. This has to be the most amazing. Like that's how I worked for the first 2 years, and I was like stuck. It was not going anywhere. But then 3 years into it, I lost I lost all my energy, and I'm like I was exhausted. And I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Like, okay. But because I had clients, because I had employees, I still had to go to work every day. So I was just going to work every day and just making those websites and just doing the good enough. I wasn't trying to make miracle happen. I was just putting in the work every day.
hmm.
And 6 months, a year later, that's when it started actually. What was happening is in the beginning for the first 3 years, I was like, this has to be perfect. Whoa, oh, it's not working. I start over. It's not working. Start over. It's not working. Start over. And I wasn't letting it grow. If I just stuck to that good enough for a long time, it would have worked. But it was like I was getting in my own way, you know.
Hmm. And I appreciate you sharing this because I had to remember that I'm the main obstacle sometimes, but I am also the bridge builder. So it's
Yeah,
up to me what's the position that I choose to be. Like, okay,
exactly.
let's let's be aware of
Yeah,
what's
you
going on.
choose.
Yeah, I choose. It's not about them. It's
I do
about
think
me.
a lot of us are too smart for our own good. A lot of us do get in our own game,
Yeah.
like you know.
Yes. I do think that too. The less you know, the
Do you have
happier you
any
are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why they say ignorance is bliss, right? Do you have any last question that you wanna like ask before we
Wrap this up.
end
No,
this combo? Yeah.
no. Again, to say thank you for the space, for the opportunity to clarify. Also, to if someone is watching this, I encourage you to reach out to the Night Owl Nation community. It's awesome, and I really mean it. I'm quite picky when it comes to what thing to suggest someone else to try, and I will emphatically suggest to try Night Owl Nation. And the other thing is thanks
Thank you.
because I never thought it that way. I will try it about reaching out to these possible leads or customers from the training door. They will get something else. But if training it is. And
Yeah.
I will start to also connect, not to try to sell with my content, but to serve with that. Okay, you need training, you need to learn faster and better and bolder. I got you.
Yeah.
And if you like it, there's
Here's what
more.
I'll say. Your business is a B2B business.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I would highly recommend you to make your content on LinkedIn
Okay.
and then really, really get yourself integrated in the HR community, not just in Latin America,
Mm-hmm.
but also in North America, Europe, and like work your way up to like a lot of government organizations need this, a lot of Fortune 500 companies need this. Like
Awesome.
work your way up there, and you'll kill it.
That's encouraging. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I will do. That's a real
Awesome.
follow
Thank
up.
you so much, Franco. I'm going to put all of your information in the show notes so people can find you.
Okay.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Cheers.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.